ready to go deep. We're tackling the essence of humanity today, and let me tell you, Charles Pasternak does not mess around. He starts at the very beginning, like the dawn of life kind of beginning.
It's really mind-blowing when you think about it. We go about our day totally unaware of the incredible symphony happening inside us at every moment.
Right. Trillions of cells all working together, and each one, Pasternak says, is like its own little city. So what are the key elements we're talking about here? What's in the recipe for life?
Well, you've got the essentials, water, obviously. Then you've got glucose. Think of it as the fuel, the energy source. And then there are these building blocks called amino acids. They're essential for making proteins.
Proteins, those are important for, well, pretty much everything, right?
Exactly. They're like the workhorses of the cell. They build tissues, transport molecules, send signals. They're involved in practically every biological process. Oh, and we can't forget the nucleotides.
Nucleotides, those are, wait, are those the DNA things?
Bingo. Nucleotides are the building blocks of DNA, the blueprint of life.
Okay, I always hear that phrase. DNA is the blueprint. But what does that actually mean? It's like, is there a tiny little architect inside each cell reading a blueprint and building stuff?
It's a great analogy. Imagine, instead of a blueprint, a ridiculously long instruction manual. But instead of words, it's written these chemical letters, A, T, C, and G. That's your DNA. And the specific sequence of those letters tells your cells how to build those amazing proteins we were just talking about.
So my DNA determines what my hair color is, my height, all of that.
It plays a big role, yes. But remember, it's not just one gene for one trait. It's this incredibly complex interplay of genes and environmental factors. Pasternak talks about how even small changes in our DNA can lead to big differences. He calls them mutations.
Mutations, like the X-Men. So we're all just walking around with the potential to develop superpowers.
Well, not quite superpowers. But you're right. Mutations are the engine of evolution. Most of them are tiny and don't really have a noticeable effect. But sometimes those tiny changes can lead to new traits, new adaptations that give an organism an advantage in a particular environment.
So that's how we went from single-celled organisms to, well, us.
Amazing. But, you know, what I find really fascinating is that Pasternak doesn't just focus on what's going on inside of us. He also talks about how life itself is interconnected.
Absolutely. He brings up this process we all learned about in school, but might not think about much, photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis, right, that's what plants do. They make their own food or something.
They do. They've got this superpower. They can use sunlight to convert carbon dioxide and water into glucose, which, remember, is a type of sugar, a source of energy.
So plants are like little energy factories powered by the sun. And we get that energy when we eat them, or eat animals that eat plants. Exactly. We can't directly harness the power of the sun like they can. We have to get it indirectly, by consuming these energy-rich molecules the plants have created. And that's where respiration comes in.
Respiration, isn't that just breathing?
Kind of. It's the process our bodies use to break down that glucose that's stored sunlight to release the energy our cells need. We take in oxygen, we break down glucose, and we release carbon dioxide as a byproduct.
And that carbon dioxide is what plants need for photosynthesis. It's like this perfect cycle.
It really is remarkable. Pasternak does a beautiful job of illustrating how even at the most fundamental level, life is interconnected. So we've got this incredible foundation, right? The cells, the DNA, this intricate web of life. And somewhere along the line, we get us, Homo sapiens.
It's crazy to think about. From those single-celled organisms to beings capable of, well, having this conversation, what sets us apart? How did we go from those early primates to modern humans?
It's evolution, of course, but a very specific and remarkable journey. Pasternak talks about some key physical changes that happened along the way, like walking upright.
Bipedalism, right. But other primates use tools too, don't they? I'm picturing chimpanzees using those sticks to fish for termites.
Exactly. But our opposable thumbs gave us this edge in terms of dexterity, the ability to create much finer, more complex tools. And of course, the biggest change of all happened in our brains.
That's the real game changer, right? The human brain. It's this incredible, complex organ capable of, well, everything we do.
Pasternak talks about how over millions of years, our brains increased in size and complexity, especially the areas responsible for language.
That's what I find so fascinating, language. It's how we communicate, share ideas, build societies. It's fundamental to being human, isn't it?
Absolutely. He calls it a turning point in human evolution. Just imagine trying to explain complex ideas or pass down traditions without words. Language allowed us to cooperate on a whole new level, to build cultures, to create art, to make sense of the world around us.
And this ability for language, it's in our DNA, isn't it? I vaguely remember something about a specific gene.
It's called FOXP2, and it's fascinating. It's not the only gene involved in language, obviously, but it plays a crucial role. And what's really interesting is that we shared this gene with other primates, but the human version is slightly different.
A tiny tweak in our DNA with huge consequences. It's mind-blowing. But Pasternak doesn't stop at the evolution of Homo sapiens. He goes on to talk about how we spread across the globe.
The migrations of early humans. It's an epic story. Imagine the courage, the curiosity it must have taken to venture into the unknown like that.
Right. Driven by climate change, a need for resources, and probably a good dose of that human curiosity we were just talking about. Pasternak uses the example of the Clovis culture in North America, if I remember correctly.
They were incredible. The Clovis points, those beautifully crafted spear points, they're not just tools. They're evidence of sophisticated knowledge.
They had to understand the properties of the materials they were working with. It's amazing, that level of skill and ingenuity.
Pasternak highlights that they weren't just focused on survival. There's evidence they decorated their tools, suggesting this early appreciation for aesthetics. It adds another layer to our understanding of who they were. But their story is also a reminder that humans have always had an impact on the planet. Sometimes a positive one, sometimes not so much.
That's something important to remember, for sure. Our impact on the environment isn't a new phenomenon. But going back to the Clovis and other early humans, it's inspiring to think about their resilience, their ingenuity. They were explorers, inventors, survivors. And it's that same spirit, that quest for understanding, that Pasternak goes on to explore.
You know, it's amazing to think about the journey we've taken with Pasternak so far. From those basic building blocks of life to the emergence of Homo sapiens spreading across the globe. But the story doesn't end there.
No, he keeps going. And this is where things get really interesting, I think, because he starts to delve into what we might call civilization, right? The development of writing, art, this incredible human urge to understand the world around us.
It's like he's tracing the evolution not just of our bodies, but of our minds. Think about those early cave paintings, for example.
Those always fascinate me. What were they trying to communicate? Was it just about recording what they saw? Or was there something more?
That's the question, isn't it? Pasternak suggests those paintings were more than just decorations. They were a way of making sense of the world, a way of expressing themselves, perhaps even a form of storytelling. They were leaving their mark.
A message for the future. And over time, those simple markings evolved into more complex symbols and eventually writing systems.
Precisely. And it's hard to overstate what a game changer that was. Suddenly, you could record information, share knowledge across vast distances and timescales. It's the foundation of everything we know.
It's like our collective memory just expanded exponentially.
Exactly. Libraries were built, universities established, the printing press came along.
Yeah.
And knowledge just exploded.
Yeah.
And driving this whole enterprise, at least according to Pasternak, is this incredible human capacity for curiosity.
That drive to understand the world, to figure out how things work, it's what sets us apart.
It's what led us to develop agriculture, medicine, science.
Yeah.
Every advancement we've made. He talks about this beautiful cycle of observation, questioning, experimentation, refining our understanding. It's what makes us human, this constant striving for knowledge.
And he's not just celebrating our achievements, he's also asking us to consider the implications, right? This rapid pace of technological advancement. Have we really thought about the consequences?
Right. He poses this really thought-provoking question. Have we learned to control the modern world? And that's something for all of us to consider.
It is. Have we bitten off more than we can chew, so to speak? We've created these incredible technologies, but do we really understand them? Do we know where they're taking us?
Those are questions Pasternak doesn't answer for us.
Yeah.
But he gives us a framework for thinking about them. He challenges us to look at the big picture, to see the connections between our actions and their consequences.
It's a call to action, in a way, to be more mindful, more responsible, more aware of our place in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. And for me, that's what makes The Essence of Humanity such a powerful and important read. It's not just a history lesson or a science lesson. It's an invitation to think deeply about who we are, where we've been, and where we're going. And I think that's something we can all benefit from.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that the story of humanity is still being written, and we all have a role to play in shaping the next chapter.